Ooh, you got me just so crazy over you. We love Madonna, we love Madonna, we love Madonna, we love Madonna.
You're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone. Hey everybody, it's Stefan.
Hey guys, it's Tony, and you must think I'm crazy.
Yes, I do, Tony. I do think you're crazy.
I know.
But it's okay. We love you anyway. We have another Madonna podcast crossover event for all of you today. They host a show called All I Want to Do Is Talk About Madonna. Please welcome Kenny Finkle and Mark Snyder. Hi, guys.
Hello. Hi, Kenny. Hey, Mark.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to have your beautiful faces looking at us across the internet.
We are honored
to be here.
I feel like we're on that NBC Saturday night lineup where the Golden Girls and Empty Nest and Nurses would go back and forth with their episode. I feel like Blanche Devereaux coming to the hospital on Nurses at 9:30.
Didn't they? I feel like they snuck Nurses up on us because one Saturday I tuned in and suddenly Nurses is playing and it's supposed to be a thing.
It's a wonderful program.
I mean, it is. It's some of Lonnie Anderson's best work, wouldn't you say?
Oh, God.
And Arnisha Walker, all hail.
Arnisha Walker, she was on so many shows in the late 80s, early 90s. She was like under contract at NBC and they slotted her anywhere they could put her. And she kept being in these like horrible shows. But
as much as I'd love this to be an Arnisha Walker podcast, it's actually a Madonna podcast.
Yes. I'm sure Arnisha Walker went to a Madonna concert or something.
I'm going to find out and I'll get back to you on that.
Gentlemen, how are you doing today? Where are you both calling from?
I'm calling in from the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Ooh. I had a fabulous day. I was in the East Village, had a formal tea with a good friend.
Nice.
And yeah, now I'm here.
Where did you have tea? Did you go to Tea and Sympathy? Is that even still open?
Yes, it is. And I love Tea and Sympathy.
Is it? It was at a little tea house called, I don't remember the name. It was on the East Village. And it was lovely. Yeah.
Oh, you should check out Tea and Sympathy if you've never been. It's on Greenwich, and it's British and it's wonderful.
Yeah, you'll walk out speaking with a British accent,
like Madonna.
Exactly.
Mark, what about you?
I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York, as well.
Yeah.
I'm in New York, and I had a beautiful day. I ran.
Oh, you live right next door to BAM, right?
I do. I'm right near BAM. Yes.
Ever since Madame X, you were just like, I'm going to hold vigil for Madame X.
You have no idea the friends I made during the BAM residency. I ran today. It was a beautiful day. So yeah, it's been a wonderful, calm, beautiful Sunday.
Did you listen to Madonna while you ran?
No. Today I listened to another podcast by a fellow Ohioan, Hanif Adiraki, called Object of Sound.
What's that podcast about?
It's all about music and literature. Today was about the Detroit techno scene.
Oh, very cool.
So it was kind of related. I was thinking about Madonna while I was running. And
put your hands up for Detroit.
Yeah, I love Detroit. I do.
Well, before we get into the questions, Tony, do you want to give our wonderful guests a little bio?
Absolutely. The illustrious Kenny Finkle and the admirable Mark Snyder are writers who live in New York City and Brooklyn. Separately, Kenny is a professor of theater at Marymount Manhattan College and a theater producer / playwright whose work has been seen and developed all over the country. Mark is a published playwright and performer and working on a book of essays called I Am Rooting for All of Us. Yes. Together they are the podcast All I Want to Do Is Talk About Madonna, and I'm so happy that you guys are here to talk to us.
Thank you very
much.
Yay,
we're happy to be here.
Tony, do you want to kick off questions?
Fine, I will.
Do it.
I was trying to set the mood. So anyway.
What do you want us to do? You want us to help you set the mood? What's the mood?
Light a candle.
Madonna, when she goes into the studio, like
we have candles lit.
And lights candles and burns
There's
incense.
always a cut flower. One flower in a vase.
No hydrangeas, and I just lit some Palo Santo, so we're all good. So tell me, guys, how did the idea to podcast about Madonna come about? I mean, was it organic? Was it something that you guys put on like a Google Sheet document? I mean, how specific was it?
Well, Mark, I'll start and then you can, of course, jump in. We met We met at a party like, I don't know how many years ago, 8 or 9 years ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
And the first thing that we started to talk about was Madonna. Like, and it was the thing that whenever we got together, all we wanted to do was talk about Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sort of organically came from that. And we had gone out for dinner one night and had taken some edibles before dinner. This is how I remember it.
As one does.
I love where the story's going already.
Okay, let's say that's how it happened. Okay,
We did have edibles. We sat outside
did,
in the
we
West
did.
Village and we had those edibles. You remember. Don't pretend like you didn't take one. And at some point in the dinner, we were like, we should do a podcast. We should do a Madonna podcast. We should do it, and we should talk about every song ever, in her catalog, and we should just do it. And it was just one of those things that we said in, the heat of a night. And then the next day we sort of were like, I think that's still a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kept going. Yeah.
So several people who have overheard us talking about Madonna have said how amazing it was and fun and how lovely they just wanted to listen to us all the time. And so several people approached us after several encounters with us while Madonna had done something lunatic-y, and we were all like, ah! And so that also, I think, informed it. And I think we started, it's weird because we wanted it to be short. We wanted them to be tight. We wanted it to be quick. We wanted to get in, get out, talk about the song, and then be done with it. And if you like, and that was kind of our beginnings. Was that.
Some of your earlier
The
episodes
early
are like
stuff's
5
really
minutes,
short, yeah.
7 minutes, and that
yeah.
length has grown a little bit over time.
Well, we wanted it to be, because like how often do you wake up on Monday morning and you have an hour and 45-minute podcast sitting in your inbox and you're like, oh my God. And so we wanted it to be really tight, and we really wanted there to cut all the fat out
like
of
Madonna and the Sticky and Sweet tour. Tight.
Pretty much.
Yes,
and not a moment. And so, but it's kind of evolved from that. And I think what we always say is that the song is really the container for our conversation. Because I don't really see us as a fan podcast. We're really an art project that happens to be a podcast, because really it's about our conversation over a long period of time, and how that's evolving, and what we're learning about each other, and learning about Madonna, and learning about people who reach out to us and want to share their story. I mean, it just kind of keeps expanding beyond, the horn on, Think of Me.
But that was the discovery for us, because I don't think we thought that it would be, well, I don't think we thought it would be so personal. I don't think we realized how connected we were. I think we always knew how much we love Madonna, and I'm sure you guys are the same. Like, you just, something you want to talk about all the time. But then when you start to go through your biography and realize like how present she's been in your lives for so long, that when we started to connect on that level, then something really shifted in the show, and we started to just let it open up more and think about historical context and political context and social, all the different elements, and then our personal bios through that. And then we were like, well, I guess the episode should be a little longer. And before we started season 3, we were like, we got to go back. We got to go back to our roots. Just like Madonna is always trying to go back to her roots.
Always going back to. So we were like, we're going to make a lean and mean, 8 minutes long, 4 minutes long.
Totally failed.
Our Don't Stop episode's really long, and we were like, it's going to be 3 minutes. What do we have to say about Don't Stop? That's kind of what's so great about it, though, is you think about some of these songs that you're like, you have nothing to say about. You think at the beginning, you're like, oh, we have nothing to say about a song, and then all of a sudden it becomes this really beautiful conversation that we have, and we don't really know. I mean, we research heavily, and we come in armed and ready to go, but something alchemic happens when we start talking about it, that it goes in these places that we just released, we're wrapping up Something to Remember, and we did the bedtime story episodes, and our sanctuary episode was one of my favorites that we've done, and we had no idea what we were going to pull out of each other from that.
No, and I'm a big fan of how your podcast has evolved, because, first it was like little capsules about the songs, which are always great and very informative. But then I I can't remember which was the first long episode. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is so good, because you guys talk about what you were doing, what you were thinking at that time, what was happening in the world, how that all kind of swirled around that one song. And then I was like, I can't wait for the next one, because I remember when this next song came out, there was this event and there was this thing happening in the world. So I'm just like, oh, it's so good.
Thank you.
Well, so, and as we're saying, for if anyone who's listening has not listened to All I Want to Do Is Talk About Madonna, Kenny and Mark do a track by track analysis. They start from the very first song and go through every single, every album, song by song. The format is unique in how each album track serves as a jumping off point to discuss the song or the era or your thoughts and recollections from that time. How did you two decide to build the show that, or why did you decide to build the show that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like we wanted a subject, and we also thought, like, you know, going back to something Madonna says, it's like we're all, you know, everything else sort of gets in the way of the music, and so we really wanted to just look at the music and really consider it, because the music is phenomenal, and the only, you know, the true reason Madonna lasts is because the music is so good, and to stop and really take each of those bites, you know, and really like think about them and think, you know, up until a certain point, and we can talk about this another time, where it doesn't seem like she's in the studio as much, you know, that she really is really thoughtful about the music, and that there are tracks that, you know, besides the popular tracks that are usually some of my favorites, are the ones that aren't necessarily the ones that are on the radio. And so I think that's where we got the idea, and we thought it was kind of an ambitious idea, and we like, you know, something that has
biting
a little
off more than we can chew.
Yeah, I don't think we realized at the time how insane
The
this idea
massive
is.
undertaking.
There was some point at the end of the first season where I was like, Mark, I did the numbers, and it's going to take us 7.5 years to get through every track and go at the pace we're going. So yeah.
Well, and that's if she doesn't put out more
Well,
music.
we operate under the fear that there's going to be another mega album that comes out that's going to add another like 6 months of our lives to the end of the, you know, project, because she keeps going. So
even if you were to like get to the end of her current catalog, you'd have to, and you had stopped production, you'd have to come back and do the new music. I mean, I always think about that too, where I'm like, Tony and I have never discussed an endpoint for the podcast. Yeah. We sort of just were like, we'll do it until it's no longer fun or relevant to us. But I'm always like, well, if we were to end it and then like the biopic comes out and we weren't podcasting at the time, I'm like, I would feel compelled to have to podcast about the biopic, because it'd be such a moment in Madonna's career that I'm like, we have to talk about it, because we're going to talk about it anyway.
I think also if a cease and desist letter arrives, that would be another reason to end the podcast. I mean, what has both delighted and surprised us has been how many people are anticipating the random obscure album tracks. Those are the ones people want to hear more about than any of the big. I mean, everybody was like, I can't wait for you to do Jimmy. I can't wait for you to talk about
I couldn't. Yeah. I was so excited for Love Tried to Welcome Me.
Oh my God. Thank you. Great. Love Tried to Welcome Me is an amazing song. And
it is.
Or the other big surprise was the way that I'm Breathless has just people. Everybody wanted to guest on I'm Breathless when we were still doing guests. Everybody wanted to talk about their favorite song on I'm Breathless, which boggled me, because nobody really thinks about it in the same way that they think about Like a Prayer.
They do. They just don't talk about it. You know?
Yeah.
So one unexpected side effect from doing a Madonna podcast is engaging with listeners and discovering that we have a community of fans and eventually friends. So tell us about some instances where you guys were moved by fan responses, and how do you feel about having this platform to express your opinions and admiration for Madonna and also talk about the music?
It's great. I mean, I think we have a lot of respect for the listeners, and because I don't think they're necessarily our fans. I think they're listeners of our podcast and fans of Madonna.
Right.
I
That's
think
what
that's a very
Totally.
distinct thing to kind of.
No, you're totally right. I think but you're right. And sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things where people assume that because we're podcasting about Madonna, and this is just how I feel sometimes, is that people think we're the end all be all of a Madonna fan. Like we think we're the best Madonna fan that's out there. We know everything there is to know about Madonna, which is why we're podcasting about her. And I'm like, not really. I'm like, I danced on stage with her, but Tony knows more facts about Madonna than I do,
Yeah. And where did that get me?
I think that there's something very, that there's a lot of connectivity and it really provides a forum for those people because so many people reach out and they're like, I am really sick and, or I've been home and I'm struggling alone and, binging the erotica episodes really got me through the last, 3 days and, if they have COVID or this or that. And then you have people who didn't have a lot of acceptance for their Madonna fandom when they were young. I mean, we just did our big Something to Remember episode. And I talked about how when I went to college, it wasn't hip to like Madonna and I had to choose, am I going to be hip or I'm going to stick with my Madonna? And people came out and said, I was in that same place at certain times in my life as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have a tremendous responsibility. I feel a tremendous responsibility and a protectiveness of those listeners. And we really want to make my biggest peeve is wasting time. And I don't want to waste their time. So I want our episodes and I want the time that they spend because you can choose to listen or you can choose not to listen. I want it to be well spent. And so I think that's the interactions we have with so many different people from all over the world, the globalness of Madonna is what really strikes us a lot. I mean, people from all over the world are listening and reach out.
Which is bizarre.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you're it's
not
Tuesday morning and someone from New Zealand is like, I just listened to all of your episodes up to this point. I've spent 3 days and I haven't slept. And you're just kind of like, wow. But I do feel like that we really want to make sure that we continue to serve them and stay authentically us because we do. Really, it's about our conversation, and we're both we love them, and we want it to be as kind, as compassionate as we can be, and create a place of love and nurturing and support for each other. But we also, go at each other a lot too on our podcast and fight, and so it's kind of a really interesting balance. But I really love all of our listeners. They're so great, and they're so engaged. Some of them. I mean, we have a couple that they get into these jags and they just DM us like a running commentary of their thoughts about the episodes. And you're just like, wow.
When you somebody, I'm sure this happens to you, when somebody finds the podcast and they start to just binge everything, and we get we know, oh, you're at True Blue because you're starting to comment on these tracks, and we're like, oh my god, and then you hear it for 3 days where they're just going through and they're like, I finished, now when are the next ones coming out? And I just love that.
Why does she keep doing La Isla Bonita every tour? Right. And so it's great because they and I've been lucky enough. I've been traveling a lot during COVID, and I've met fans in LA. I've met fans in London. I've met fans in Berlin. I was recognized a couple weeks ago in Fort Lauderdale by our server listens to the podcast. She's 26.
That's fun.
Yeah. Well,
it's fun to make the connection with people.
She was yeah. And she loves it.
I don't look at it because I've been recognized as well, and people are always messaging us, and there's no ego involved in it. I'm more baffled by the fact that oh wow, we have that kind of reach. I told Tony, I think when I mentioned it on the podcast years ago when I had taken the Crave Remix workshop at the Apple in the Apple store in Brooklyn. And there were these 2 Australian guys who took it with me. And I was at the end of the workshop, I wanted to tell them, oh, hey, we do a Madonna podcast. And they were like, we know who you are, Stefan. We listen to your show. And I was like, that's one of those things where I guess you don't sit down to do this podcast thinking,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to reach an audience in Australia today, because
Yeah,
you're not
yeah,
doing
yeah.
it for that reason. You're just
Well,
doing
and you also have this idea of you've created an environment where they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That's what it's really about. It's about them being able to walk to approach you and to be. I mean, everybody comes up. Everyone's very forward and we're very open about it. Like, I would love it. I'd love to meet I want to hug everybody that listens to the podcast.
You do. I don't. I mean,
Yeah, Kenny's very aloof. I mean, look at our photo. I mean, I'm dead center, looking amazing, and Kenny's hiding behind him binoculars. That's how.
Kenny, I can relate to that. I mean, when Madam X was at the BAM, I was hiding in corners because I didn't want anyone to know who I was. But now it's like, the more the merrier. I just love talking to all the Madonna fans. And, Mark, just like you, I mean, I got to travel a little bit. I went to London and
Tony did a rainbow tour.
Yeah, but just thinking about
less luggage, I'm assuming, than
definitely a lot less. But just thinking about walking, through Madonna's old neighborhood with a fellow Madonna fan that I met through a podcast I created. That's huge, and that's something I never would have imagined.
I also love when they take photos of the after we talk about her apartment or her house on the Upper East Side, and people take photos and send them to us. They're kind of mildly stalking her, and I'm just like, don't do that. That's kind of weird. But I think that's lovely, and I loved, actually, like, since we're talking about Madame X a little bit, I loved not having the phone.
Oh, me too.
And making everybody talk to each other during that 2 hours that we were up there. And it was so wonderful and magical. And that was a time when I was like, okay, these are diehard fans because they paid we had good seats. So it's like they paid the money. So let's all talk to each other and really it was really a wonderful kind of moment for us in terms of like, oh, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, she had done it for her, but she also inadvertently did it for us,
Yeah.
She's like, I'm getting something out of this because I can connect with my audience. But at the same time, the audience got to connect with each other in a strange new way. And we were also super present during that entire show. I love that you just sort of like back in the old days when you didn't have a phone or a camera and you just had to remember the show.
Yeah. Well, and that pre-show, by the time the show actually started, Kenny was very aloof and hiding, but I was like friends with my whole row. Like we were all kind of united in this, like, okay, we're going to do this all together. And that was, that was really thrilling. And everyone was so kind afterwards. Too.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. When the show was over and it was 1 a.m, people were, because now we were all friends or acquaintances. And that was really lovely. I remember.
Oh, it seems like so long ago, but
it really does. I know. It does, and then it doesn't. It feels like it was yesterday, and then 5 years, 10 years ago. I mean, it's.
Though I just heard that certain theater shows are going to start using that same phone locking thing up.
The Yonder cases.
Yes, they're going to start doing it. There's a couple shows coming this spring to Broadway that has nudity, and so they're going to lock your phones up, which I'm very intrigued to see how it goes.
That's smart.
I'm intrigued to see how it goes.
That's good for theater because the last 5 years going to see shows on Broadway has been just so excruciatingly annoying with the drinks, the rappers, and the phones. All right.
Yeah.
But think about it. Somebody's going to forget to turn their phone off, and it's going to be trapped in that Yonder case. It's going to keep ringing and ringing.
No, it blocks. It blocks. It. You know that it blocks the signal.
It does.
Yeah, that's why it has all that magnetic.
So even if
they're
it's
so
on,
smart, those Yonder people. Yeah. They've thought it through. Okay,
we just went down the road. Kenny's shaking his head. Kenny's like, "Oh, here we go."
We always sort of delve into our guests and their Madonna journeys. I know that you have spoken at length about sort of your past experiences, and I'm just curious: were there things that have changed in your mind since you began your podcast? I mean, we've learned facts about you, and but like, did you learn things about yourself and your Madonna journey through podcasting that you sort of like didn't think about beforehand, or what's been your experience as a Madonna fan podcasting about Madonna?
I mean, I think for me, it's been more like honoring how important she is to me and really being able to support that with like, well, what was happening in the world as well as to me at the time. And then how that really, like, really seeing her, you know, as an older person now, looking back and thinking, I think about that erotica time because I talk about how that album was really, in that time was a really important time to me. But then when we were doing all the research and stuff for that and looking at all of her interviews and hearing how she was talking about the ideas that she was pushing forward and that how strong she was and what she was really saying, and realizing that I needed that so badly in my life, and that I sort of recognized that, you know, she really saved my life in a lot of ways, you know, and I think I knew that to some degree, like just physically, but that I could finally articulate it or understand it or contextualize it for myself was really, really, really powerful, and has changed my feeling about doing the show since then, because I realized like how much of an activist she's been for so long. And so I think in that way it's changed. And then just the great joy that I derive from her career and her work and like talking about it. Like, I think that's really like owning that joy and not being like we talked about this, and this goes back to the people who, you know, listeners as well, like that, I never really had anybody to talk to Madonna about. You know, never felt like I had a community to talk to anybody, like, or it was an embarrassing thing, or I'd say it like sort of like, oh, I like Madonna and I don't know who else can go into the geekiness of like loving her so much. And so I think in that way, just owning that and embracing that has been really oddly like transformative. Yeah, totally.
Oh, that was lovely, Kenny. That was lovely.
Well, Mark, what about you? How do you feel?
Well, I have issues with the word journey. I mean, I don't think I think it's so overused, and I think journey has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what's the lesson you learn on the journey? I think Madonna, it was transcending into a state of being, because I don't want to think of it being over. I think it's a state you become. And I think what I've learned the most, first of all, I'm kind of with Kenny. One of the things we bonded over was that it was kind of a private thing for us, each of us. I mean, you would not have dragged me to Harlem to be with that sweaty crowd. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not our jam. Like, we were like, do we really want to go? Do we you know, like, it's just not, you know, it's not our thing. And so it's been for us a really, and for me personally, I've had to organize how I feel about different eras and different things in Madonna. I have all of it in my head sitting there, and I have to kind of really go, okay, how do I really feel about it? And it's been now so long since you experienced it the first time. You almost have to go back as like an actor and sense memory what you were like then, and what was going on in your personal life, and where you are in puberty, and where you are in your love life, and your where you were physically, and then also kind of bring the maturity you have now and the perspective you have now. Because it's not, we're not doing knee-jerk reactions to something she did yesterday or last week. We're like letting it sit and marinate, and then talking about it. And I think that that's the difference between being a fan in the moment, which, you know, I think I was always, you know, so fiercely crazy and, you know, running to the mall and buying all of the things immediately and going to the tour and driving to, you know, see Girly Show. And I was insane. I was an insane person. And I think that with maturity, though, comes this perspective on all of the actual work that she's done, and treating her like an artist and not a singer, in this way that I think I respect her so much. And I love that she keeps going. And I think that having to start at the beginning, and then when I entered her, you know, when I kind of found Madonna in 1986, and then to now, I mean, it's now almost 30 years since that. It's like, you've got to be like, wow, like because we're looking back, there's such a better appreciation of the breadth of it all, and all the different eras and all the different things, and the good stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff, the triumphant stuff and
Well,
where
there's
we
a
are too.
I think
And-
there's a difference because I think all of us, we've been such long-term fans where we were able to see things as she was doing them.
yes.
And you're at a certain age when like say erotica comes out, and the shock value of that, because you've never seen anyone do something like this before, so overtly sexual, so in your face, so daring and ballsy, and you're living through that. But then we're older people and we're able to see where she's gone as an artist. So you look back on that and sort of, I mean, I look back on the erotica era and I was like, wow, I was not appreciating what she was doing then for what she was at the time. I was taking it in a different way. And now I look back at it and I still love that era, but now I appreciate it on a whole different level for like the politicalness of it, the activist level of it. Like there's so many other things that make me appreciate her.
And the way that misogyny, the misogyny of the interviewers all those years.
Totally.
Like that's the thing. I think that's the most shocking thing that all these, I mean, it's 30 years now since erotica, and you're looking at like all these people that were so misogynistic towards her and denigrating towards her. And she was still at a point where she was turning the other cheek and getting done what she needed to get done.
Promoting that album. Just
and I wonder what the
tight-lipped
cost, you know, that you wonder what the cost was.
Well,
Because
yeah. I mean, she wasn't really turning the cheek. She was fighting back. And I mean, I think that's the thing that I didn't really recognize as much until watching all this stuff back and going that she didn't, you know, hide away. Like she really, you know, there's that one interview I think about that's in our erotica episode where the guy is like, that image of you in the mirror masturbating was really disgusting. And she's like, why did you think it was disgusting? He's like, I just find it, well, he doesn't say disgusting, he says another word, but she's like, why did you find it that way? And he's like, well, it just is. He's like, I've never seen anything like that before. She's like, of course you have. And, you know, she's like, well, you know, and he's like, yeah, but with you, it was just gross. You know, like to her face, you know, and she's like, well, I actually think it says a lot about you, you know? And I was like, fuck, like who can do that? Like that's tough, you know, but it does have a cost, you know?
And erotic. I mean, the sex book, I kept coming back when we came back to it to talk about it. I thought I would look at it as this quaint little artifact from 1992. It's still shocking. It's still a shocking piece of work. And I was like, wow, it's still like, I'm like, whoa, you know, because it's very aggressive and both feminine and masculine at the same time. And I love that about it, that it's both of those things. And I'm just kinder to songs like Gambler. I love Gambler. I was so mean to it back in the day. Now I love it.
Oh,
It's such a great song.
Yeah, and that's what I love about sort of like having been growing up as a Madonna fan is, I mean, as much as I am jealous of, you know, when you see these, we interviewed a sweet woman last season called Empress, and she is like just discovering Madonna, and she does reaction videos on YouTube about it. And I'm like, wow, I'm so jealous to think that like she's never heard these songs or seen these videos or watched her movies, and she's just literally able to just like a Netflix binge. She's just binging Madonna's career one after another after another.
On Friday, she finally watched the Blonde Ambition tour, and I saw her reaction, and I was living my life. I mean, 2 hours, watching her for 2 hours watch Blonde Ambition was like watching it for the first time. And I love seeing these young people, you know, kind of like go on their own, pardon the word, Madonna journey, you know?
It's okay. It's okay. I have a couple other words I don't want to use, but I won't tell you what they are.
I'm the same. I watch all of those YouTubers. I love those reaction videos. And they're like, there's one I just watched recently where it was about Vogue, you know, and they're like, I don't know if I've ever heard this song. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And then they're like, and the video, and they watch the video and they're like, oh my God. And, you know, they have that moment. And I'm like, it lives, you know, this is why I love Madonna. Like the energy that she puts into it, like lives and it connects still all over time when they see it. And the live shows too, they're like, oh my God. Like,
it's palpable. It's palpable.
Yeah,
and the amount of work that
Mhm.
she's doing in the
for
shows,
sure.
and I feel like the younger they're used to lots of technology that is making sure it's very comfortable for the artists that they're watching.
Mm.
Well, let's talk about the current state of Madonna's musical legacy. So yeah, this has been on my mind for like the past week, and I wanted to get you guys' opinion on it. So, for example, in 2022, now TikTok is really popular. Not with me; I've never been on it, but apparently it's
I've
taking the
watched
world by
it.
storm.
I've watched other people watch it. That's
Right.
as close as I've gotten.
So you're familiar with like, how the platform uses music, and now songs are charting that are going viral on TikTok. And
Yeah.
Madonna's top 3 songs on TikTok are the Frozen remix, Vogue, and at number 3, surprisingly, Material Girl. I mean, the latter is currently charting due to the success of Saucy Santana's viral hit song Material Girl, which is a rap song.
Okay.
And there's memes being created using both of the tracks side by side. But what I'm trying to get to is that, the viral success of these tracks with the very, very young TikTok teens has absolutely nothing to do with Madonna's input or promotion. In fact, I think she might be the last to know about, some of these songs charting. Like, for example, the Frozen remix, she didn't know about it until about 6 to 8 months after it was a thing,
Yeah.
So, yeah, tell us individually your thoughts on how you think Madonna is viewed and heard by younger listeners today. And if you think she has a way, or if she'll have a chance to reclaim the control that she's so used to expand her legacy, because she can't do it the way she used to do it. It can't be calculated like it used to be when she would do a drop. Now it's kind of like in everyone's hands, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, I feel like the Madonna rule is really like there's no press that's bad press, and so I think she's happy. I mean, I don't actually know. I think that you're right. I don't know that I have no idea, honestly. Like the Frozen thing to me is so strange.
Yeah.
And the track itself, I'm like, it's only part of the song. And it's a good part of the song, but it's not like my favorite part of the song. And I'm like, I don't understand this. But that's what I'm like, I feel like an old person too, because I'm like, I don't understand why this is happening. But then I'm like, well, like I don't know. And she keeps putting on her Instagram that this many millions of people are listening to the song. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I feel like in that way, she's sort of using it to like keep her self present, but I agree that it doesn't feel like Madonna.
Right, because think about it this way. If it were up to Madonna to have 3 songs, top 3 songs on TikTok, it wouldn't be Material Girl and Frozen,
No.
So that's what I'm trying to get at is that, now it's kind of like been taken out of her hands. And because the way that music is heard and promoted is completely different from her having a label behind her to do these very calculated, drops. So, yeah, I'm just curious to see where that's going to go in the future because, especially now that she's got, upcoming projects, how those songs will be taken kind of like, I guess, from her and reclaimed by the listeners.
Well, but see, I think she's trying to be as part of it and as relevant with the process as possible because, I mean, she's filming a music video for the Frozen remix with that some rapper. I saw her post about it on her Instagram, and so she's definitely adopting that and making it her own. I still feel like the Frozen. The fame of the Frozen remix was a little past already. I feel like we're sort of like after the fact at this point, but I'm glad she's doing it. I mean, it'll be fun to see how she reinvents that song and how she, it's such a epic video of hers to like go back to that moment and make it new again. She reinvented it. So it'll be fun.
I think, I always feel really bad for the young generation because
I'm right there with you.
I don't feel like they have a lot of culture that's really quality. I mean, everything they watch is reboots and recycled stuff. I mean, I love this Dua Lipa person. I think the songs are bops, but I have no idea what this woman thinks or cares about in her vocals. There's no feeling. There's no personality. She's lovely. She's like a computer.
Do we know anything about her dance training? See, we don't know anything.
That's putting it nicely. Dance.
I think she
moves rhythmically. Yeah. She moves rhythmically.
I think she went to the Pebbles School of Dance Training.
Yeah, I mean, but I look at that as an example of like, okay, well, this is your like, and they don't know who like Jessie Ware is, who's an amazing,
it's such a shame.
Legend.
That album was so good,
so brilliant, and so it's kind of like I really don't worry about whether or not Madonna's going to resonate with them because they're so starved for quality songs. They're gonna find the ones that they connect with anyway, because the body of work will stand the test of time. And when we're all gone, people will still be like discovering Papa Don't Preach and open your, like, I'm not worried about Madonna's legacy with young people because, and I'm not. And I think it doesn't matter what the path to which they get the song, whether that's TikTok, YouTube, downloads, phone rings, whatever, ringtones, whatever it is. I think they're still they're gonna find the good stuff. The good stuff always rises to the top.
Yeah, it'll come to you. I mean, TikTok is just another place where they're being fed this music where they wouldn't have gotten it before. So tell me, guys, what are your thoughts on the upcoming, as I like to call it, the Remix Revolution rumor project? So far, we've only seen fan-made videos and unconfirmed audio clips. I'm very, very critical about this because until I have it in my hand, it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
We know that the collection will contain her 50 number one Billboard dance singles that went to number one.
And that list has been like sent around, and everyone's like, "Okay, this is the list." Okay.
So, what are your hopes and fears for this release?
Can I go first on this one? I'm going to go. First of all, I want a physical. I want to.
Me too.
I want something physical.
Yeah.
A packaging. You want like a CD release.
I want a CD. Second of all, I do have Kenny and I have talked about how all of the Instagram looks. Maybe that's all going to be packaged together because she's spending atrocious amounts of money on these Instagram shoots and the trailer and all this bullshit she's doing. And I kind of want it all to be in one big package, as kind of like, this is what I did during COVID. And now that's over. Here's your little gift for getting through COVID with me. And now we're going to move on.
150-page booklet with a triple CD.
Why not? Why not?
Jewel case set. It'll be amazing.
Here's me squatting somewhere. I mean, like, voila, I don't know. I mean, Madonna can do whatever she wants at this. I don't care. I mean, do I want new mixes? Yes. Does what's his name? Mike Lee?
Mike Dean?
Mike Dean. His appearance is him and the joints are very problematic to me because I don't feel like they're always up in their game.
Confidence.
And I'm nervous about it. Mike Dean, like him remixing everything. I'm hoping that everybody, and I'm not sure that this is true. They've commissioned 50 amazing remixes from 50 different amazing artists that we don't know anything about who can really like slam it. That makes but doing and like that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay.
I don't know.
We don't know.
This is the challenge because then something that we say tonight will be like wrong in 3 days when something is announced. So,
but I think it's fun to theorize. I mean,
totally.
It's fun to sort of think about what she's doing,
especially after all we've been through with her and all the things we've bought and all the things we've seen. It's like, all right, well, are we informed enough to make a prediction, or is she just going to flip it on its head like she always
I just really don't want something just popping up in Spotify and that being,
no.
I think there'll be physical.
We deserve more than that.
I think there will be. I'm hoping she's leaning in. I mean, part of me wants it to be like, one continuous track that just mixes, we're hearing like 2 or 3 minutes of each song and it sort of builds and builds and builds. But then I'm also like, some of those remixes in their entirety I love and would love to hear them remastered. And like, I think of some of the Ray of Light remixes that would be so exciting to hear. The Music era, I mean, Confessions era, like there's some great and even I don't search, I don't find. I mean, I love those remixes, and I would love to hear those full and in place or in some kind of interesting sequence. So I'm super curious, but I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. I would wish it could be like make me feel the way I felt like when I got You Can Dance. Cause you always want that euphoria, but will we get it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and so speaking of Madonna music, you had mentioned on your show that Madonna with Nikki Harris and Donna DeLory is the Madonna sound. Would you like to see Nikki and Donna reunite with Madonna one day? Do you think that's something that Madonna would ever do? Even if it was just like a one-off, like the 50th anniversary of Blonde Ambition. And here's Madonna with Nikki and Donna.
But Stefan, she hates to look back. She just hates to look back.
Yeah.
Well, we said at that time, like that time was the Madonna sound. I don't think they're the Madonna sound. Who knows, now. But what do you think, Kenny? You answer this question.
I mean, I would be thrilled to see the three of them together. I think that would be gorgeous. And I think if she could do that, like, I think their voices really just sound so beautiful together. And I think it would be really meaningful. I think they should do the Something to Remember set that we want them to do, because we were suggesting that this should be a concert in itself. And
I heard that. I loved it too. I mean, we've spoken to both Nikki and Donna, and they are both ready to go. So there's just one person.
Of course they're ready to go. Of course they're ready to go. Everyone's in cold storage waiting for the call. Well,
but do I think it'll ever happen? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, and when Jose was dancing with Madonna, Jose Extravaganza was dancing with Madonna during the movie thing. Like, I was so moved by that, and that they were kind of together capturing a moment, and they knew everyone was watching. It really meant a lot to people, and it was a time, and I do feel like that they, I don't know, like I just
honestly,
listen because
I feel like Donna and Nikki, they deserve it because I was just doing research for our Ray of Light stuff is coming up, and I was watching the Nothing Really Matters. I guess it's the Grammy performance or MTV. Yeah. And
Grammys.
Honestly, they deserve a reunion with Madonna for showing up and doing that performance with her, because that, like, they had to go in those outfits. I mean, it was just a mess. And they deserve
that was a mean Madonna Grammy experience. They made her do that, and then her category was right afterwards, so she didn't get to change.
She was all sweaty.
She's in the geisha outfit. I was like, give the sister a break. Like, give her like 10 minutes
for that alone. Gosh. But I would have loved to see that song live, with them, where they weren't having to do that whole show. Like, they could just really do those vocals. Yeah. Anyway,
I feel like we missed an opportunity to have like Madonna Unplugged on MTV, and like how fantastic it would have been to have just like sort of what she did with Bad Girl on SNL, where it was like her sitting on a chair with backup singers and a band, and like just Madonna Unplugged singing, and to have Nikki and Donna doing backup with her, that would have been fantastic.
Agreed.
But it's interesting that they never do those one-off things with her. Like, it's so strange that, like, aside from Nothing Really Matters, they really don't show up for the promo stuff.
I mean, they do the music. They do all the music stuff with her when music comes out.
Well, they're about to go on tour, Kenny. True. They're on the tour contract. They're not just doing one-offs.
So true.
It would be fun. I mean, they're great, and I love where their careers have taken them. Like, I think that they both have got, and that's the other thing is I kind of, my one caveat to that is they both have amazing careers on their own, and they've been able to become Nikki Harris and Donna DeLory without being Madonna's backup singers.
Kenny and Mark, did you guys get a chance to see them perform when they were in Brooklyn in 2019?
No.
They were 3 blocks away, and I was totally like, I was out of town, but they were like right down the street. It was kind of shocking. Again, that's intense, man. Those fans are intense.
No, I mean, we were there, and Stefan went to go meet them and all that, and I was like, no, I got to go home. I can't really be in front of them because I can't guarantee what I'm going to react, how I'm going to react. You know, I mean, these people have lived in
Yeah.
my brain for 25, 30 years, you know, and
Totally.
to be confronted with all that after hearing them sing, I'm like, no, I'm going home.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So speaking of Bad Girl, I loved your comparison that
Yes.
Louise Oriole in Bad Girl and her characters in Body of Evidence and Dangerous Game are all bad behaving women who receive punishment of some sort. And notably, all three of those characters, those women that Madonna plays in those films and video, end up getting killed. And I'm interested in hearing your perspective on why do you think Madonna was interested in portraying those roles, considering she's always advocating for women empowerment? You know,
Wait, is it fair to add Breathless Mahoney to that list because she?
Sure.
Oh boy. Poor Breathless. Poor Blank.
I know.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was thinking about it a lot because you sent the questions earlier, and I was like, yeah, why does she choose these sort of death narratives? It's like, you know, I was thinking like, well, part of it is in context of the bigger picture of all of the stuff that she was doing. Like, were they like counterpoints to the sex positivity of erotica and the sex book? And so she's showing like all these different angles of an idea of what it means to be a woman, what it feels like to be a girl in that time in her life and in the world. But then I also thought, you know, she could also still have been caught in those narratives. Like that was the only thing that could happen to those women. And a couple of those she didn't have control over, meaning they were movies, but she agreed to do them.
Yeah.
Did she think like with Evita that she could bring something to those portrayals that would change our perspective of the character? I don't know. I think it's a really interesting question.
I mean, I feel that way about Dangerous Games, and I feel that way about Dangerous Games. I feel like she did not have control. Who knows if she was supposed to die when she signed up for it?
Oh, she wasn't.
Yeah. And then with Breathless and Body of and Rebecca Carlson, they're femme fatales in these genre pieces where like it's required that they die.
Yeah, because of the code, right?
Yeah. And I do think that, you know, I mean, we talk about it in our Bad Girl episode about Madonna's acting choices in Body of Evidence. And I do think that she was trying to bring something else to it that I mean, she works really hard in all of those films.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like that there's I feel like she's trying to broaden the picture of the femme fatale in Body of Evidence before she gets killed, because she still has to get killed and get punished because she did kill the guy. I mean, she's guilty, you know, and if we're following noir rules, like she has to be punished in order for the world to, you know, and William Dafoe doesn't divorce Julianne Moore, or Julianne Moore doesn't divorce William Dafoe. So they're going to stay together. And, you know, with Bad Girl, I mean, I think Bad Girl is just, I mean, I think it is a commentary on Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Yeah.
And Looking for Mr. Goodbar is a horrific film. And the punishment at the end is so random and so misogynistic, and particularly for Diane Keaton, you know, America's sweetheart at that time. It'd be like Julia Roberts doing it in the 90s. I think she really wanted to show like, well, this is really what we're saying here. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first saw the video, I was really shaken because I saw all the references from Mr. Goodbar and from Clute and from Wings of Desire, and I was like, oh my God, Madonna's in my head right now. Yeah. But at the same time, it was also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I thought it was a commentary on casual sex and AIDS and how it wrapped up to erotica and sex all at the same time. I mean,
and it also, there's that look she gives the guy when she's giving him the pantyhose before he goes to shut the door, and it's almost kind of like a dare. And that always is the moment I'm like, well, what does she mean? But like, that's the moment.
She has nothing to lose.
Come on, bring it.
Yeah, she's got nothing to lose anymore.
Yeah. And I, you know, it's a great, It's a great video.
Yeah, I think it's one of her strongest moments in her career. Well, listen, Madonna was unceremoniously off in all these early films, but guess what? She got the biggest funeral in the world in Evita, so it's all worth it, right?
Well, and were these like the best role? Like, I do think some of it is like this is the best role that she could get that could be greenlit at that time. I mean, how many movies are there? You know, we've talked about it. We're going to continue to talk about all the stalled film projects she was supposed to do. And I mean, Harvey Fierstein's got a new book coming out this week, I think, and he talks about pitching Madonna to play Candy Darling in a film.
Oh, I remember that story. Yeah,
and she's like, "You want me to play a drag queen? Like that doesn't sound like a good idea." and his line is, I'm going to spoil it. He says, "Everyone's seen your pussy. Now it's time for them to see your dick." And I love that.
Nice.
And that would have been an amazing. But there's all of these films that are like, what a great idea. But nobody's bankrolling this, so these are your options, Madonna.
My biggest disappointment was Lita and Swan, which is a female buddy cop film with Demi Moore.
Yes.
Oh, that would have been amazing at that era. At that era, with both of them trading workout tips. I mean, I would have been like, "Let's do it. Let's."
And Madonna was supposed to be playing a tough-talking Brooklyn undercover cop. I mean,
Nikki Finn got bad.
Yeah, I know. We missed an opportunity.
Nikki Finn grows up and gets a badge.
Well, Stefan, I think it's time for my favorite part of the podcast.
Oh, you know. All right, so all of our guests get a little thing we call the lightning round. It's just wherever you're at in your Madonna fandom. Doesn't have to be forever. It's just wherever you're at today. Without thinking, we'll do Mark Kenny. So, favorite Madonna song. Favorite Madonna song, Mark.
We just released a great big long episode on Something to Remember. So I've got ballads on the brain. So I will say You'll See.
Yes.
Nice. Kenny.
Don't Tell Me.
Ooh, good one.
Favorite Madonna music video, Mark.
Again, we just recorded some stuff for Ray of Light, and Kenny made a case for Drowned World Substitute for Love that made me reconsider my entire relationship with that video. And no, seriously, I'm like, I can't wait for everyone to hear it because I was just like, oh my God. And I went back and listened to it. It's a stunning video. It's my favorite video right now. And so sad. It's such a sad, beautiful video. So that's my pick.
I always felt bad for the maid, you know.
That poor the maid, or the body. Oh, the driver of that car, man.
I don't feel bad for the maid. I mean, the maid was taking advantage of her in that moment.
She got fired. You know, she got fired, Kenny. She got fired. The second Madonna was done hugging the kid, she was like, "Fire Consuela, get me a man, get me a gay man who won't take my photo to clean the tub." Would you take that job?
No. No, I would not.
No.
They are not getting paid enough to
no one is getting
that has Mommy Dearest written all over it. Kenny, what about you? Favorite Madonna music video?
I'm sticking with Don't Tell Me. I think that's a deceptively amazing video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so clever. Just the mixture of green screen behind her and then actually in like where she's at in reality and it's eye candy from the Cowboys.
Oh, I just love how the visual edits match the chopped and screwed version of the song.
So good.
It's great.
Yeah. Such a great
and
video.
She looks phenomenal. I think it's one of her, most beautiful looks.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in it. She is in it. Yeah.
Dancing, everything. Yeah.
Favorite Madonna tour, Mark?
Girly, my first girly show.
Kenny?
First.
Sonically, I listen to the MDNA tour audio all the time. That's my favorite to listen to, but my favorite to see was the Confessions.
Favorite Madonna movie, Mark?
Well, so I have a confession to make. So I in artists that I love, I save things intentionally so that I have something to look forward to. So I love Joni Mitchell. Kenny and I both love Joni Mitchell. And I didn't listen to Turbulent Indigo, her album from 1994, literally for 20 years.
How could you do that?
Well, because I wanted to have one, because I didn't know what, Joni Mitchell's not very prolific, certainly after 1994. And I was kind of like, I want to have one more record I don't know in case anything happens. So I've listened to everything else. And then I finally, like 5 years, when she had her stroke, I was like, okay, we're not getting another album. I'm going to listen to Turbulent Indigo. And I now love it. It's a wonderful record. Yeah. She won the Grammy for it. And, but I've never seen Swept Away. And I hold out hope that Swept Away is this underappreciated, underrated classic that's going to be rediscovered, given a Criterion Channel reissue, with cleaned up. I do. I live in hope. This is my optimism. This is the positivity. I live in hope that Swept Away is going to be the lost Madonna classic it was always meant to be.
I just hope you have some good friends with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to. So Swept Away is my favorite Madonna movie.
So here's my advice for you. So Swept Away has not yet made it to the Criterion Channel, but the original film from 1975 that Madonna ripped off is. So go ahead and watch that one.
I have seen that film.
Isn't it?
I have seen that film.
It's crazy.
They're hot.
Yeah, they're
sexy.
hot. And I watched it 2 weeks ago, and I can tell all the parts where Guy Ritchie and Madonna watched it and said, "You look just like her, love. You look just like her, love." Right?
Or better yet, I would say... Sorry. Or better yet, I would say just watch Overboard and enjoy a great Goldie Hawn movie.
Stop it.
It is.
So that's my dream. Swept Away is my favorite Madonna movie in ignorance.
Awesome.
Kenny, what about you?
I know this is kind of unpopular. I'm going to tell you a secret.
Okay.
I love that movie. Yeah.
I thought it was a nice, very drastic
Can you tell them
contrast.
why you like it? Why don't you tell them a little bit why you like it?
Is it because of Willy Wonka?
Again, I think it's a really interesting time in her life. Where we're seeing her at such a different. I love all the backstage and off-screen stuff. I love when she's at the pub with Guy Ritchie and she's drunk, and I love seeing that side of her. And we don't really get to see that. And that's my favorite role is when she plays Madonna. So that I felt like that, and I like the spirituality of it. I like that she's reaching for that and she's putting it out there. I think it's good. Yeah.
I mean, it's the only record we have of Madonna as a wife and mother on tour.
Yeah. Totally.
And it's so the other thing that's really interesting about it is that it's so different than because and we talk about it in our Truth or Dare episode. All of the backstage stuff is literally like this enclosed bubble, and in that one, she's just she's wearing a lot of different hats, as opposed to I'm doing the tour and I'm hanging out with the dancers and my friends. That's all I'm doing. That's all I can do. She has to do all these other things, and I'm going to tell you a secret. And I love that. I love that there's a lot more of the rest of the world that she's living in besides just, car to backstage.
So normally we ask people what their favorite Madonna look is, but on your podcast, you had said that you could do an entire episode solely about Madonna's hair. So I'd like to know, what's your favorite Madonna hairstyle? Mark.
Oh, you threw us a curveball. The next one, the next hair. That's what I'm going to say. The next hair is going to be my favorite because, again, optimism. I hope. Something. I hope.
I will say there are two looks. One is like I love when she has the straight black hair in the late 90s, and we see her at all the events. It's just gorgeous. Like when she's on Larry King, that hair, to die for. But my real favorite is like Madonna, when she's on the street. This doesn't happen anymore. When she's on the street going to the gym and she's in her tracksuit and her hair is just a fucking mess.
And the Argyle sweater. And
yes.
I love that look.
That's my
with
favorite
her bottle
Madonna.
of water and her phone, and she's kind of looking pissed off. There's an assistant just over her shoulder. Where's the car? Madonna's ready. Where is it?
In one of those, she had a Goldfrapp CD in her hand, and everybody was like, "Why is she listening to Goldfrapp?"
Oh my god!
But I love those looks, and I did try to rip that off so many times, and it never worked out. My Argyle sweater always clashed with my Adidas track pants, and it just never looked right,
I also don't know how she biked in those outfits, because those outfits, I mean, there was a lot of like lengthy pants, and I was like, that's not good for the spokes on your bike, Madonna, that you're biking around London in.
Too many layers, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just want to say thank you. You guys, this has been exceeded my expectations. I love talking to you guys.
What were your expectations? Were we below your expectations?
No, I'll tell you what my expectations were. I thought I was going to be like Cindy Brady, with the camera, like I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know what to ask, and
I was like Cindy Brady. I was like, oh right, when she was on the TV show, she couldn't. She got stage fright. She couldn't talk. I was like, what Brady reference are we making?
I
thought you were trying to make like a Brady Bunch movie thing. It's all your fault, Jan.
I know. I'm sorry. I mean, I should read the room before I do like a Brady Bunch, analogy, which only 5% of the population will get. But
nobody knows.
Again, that's their tragedy. That is their tragedy.
And basically, what I'm trying to say is I'm very excited to talk to you guys because I've been listening to you, and I was a little intimidated, but it's all good. I love talking to you guys. It's great.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's awesome that you invited us on. We had such a good time. We're big fans of yours too. It's been really awesome.
Thank you. So tell everyone where they can find you guys on social media, and also, please promote and expand on anything that you guys are working on.
Well, we have a bunch of things in the fire that are kind of coming, so that's exciting, and more seasons of All I Want to Do Is Talk About Madonna. We're going to wrap up season 3 with Ray of Light in end of May. I think we're done. Kenny, is that true?
Yes, May or June. I can't remember now. Yeah,
and we're about to celebrate 100 episodes.
Yay!
That's happened. Yes, it's going to be a thing, and then
it's a celebration.
It is going to, I can't believe we've been talking to each other for 100 episodes. I mean, and he's not sick of it yet. And we're on social media. We're at All I Want to Do Is Talk About Madonna. And the 2 is the number 2. And we're on Instagram there. And we have lots of content all the time.
You do. I know. I'm always like, wow, they post a lot.
We do.
Good for them. I'm just like,
we want people to know.
I can barely manage one a day. I'm like,
we want people to know.
Mark does all of that. He's really great at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have fun with it. Yeah. I'm digging through. You know what I'm trying to find, guys? I'm trying to find a really good photo of Madonna and Michelle Ndegeocello. I have one from the Grammys or from the MTV Music Awards in 1999.
If I find one, I'll send it over your way.
Yeah, Michelle Ndegeocello looks angry to be there, and I need something where they're happy and excited. And I can't. I can't find anything of her and Alanis either. There's no photos of Madonna and Alanis.
I'm sure Gaia Siri has all of those locked in a vault somewhere.
I don't think they took photos. I don't think they took photos.
It's funny you bring that up because I just watched that documentary on HBO the other day, and there was like a couple of anecdotes, Alanis working with Madonna, but no photos, no footage, no, there was no record of what Maverick was like as a record company in the 90s, which is really strange to me.
It is, and that's an interesting idea for a conversation, because it's like, who is going to write the story of Maverick Records? Because it really, it's kind of back, I think. In some way, some form.
It's a management company. But
they don't have artists anymore, correct?
No. Okay. So Guy Ozeri has a management team under the guise of Maverick, and so they manage different artists like U2 and Madonna.
But they're not putting out art. But it's an interesting conversation because really, Maverick is like the only quote unquote like vanity label that really got any traction, and I kind of would love to know.
We need a documentary. We need a VH1 behind the music.
We need somebody that was there though, because like I'm assuming Guy Ozeri is not on the Alanis documentary. Like people. No,
he was there. He was. Yeah, he was.
Cool.
So Maverick was started by Freddie DeMann and Madonna, and then
No, I know all of that, but was he in the documentary about Alanis?
You don't need to school them on this.
No. I was not That's not what I meant.
Maverick.
I was just gonna say when Freddie
I love
took
you,
off.
Tony.
I love you
Tony.
too. When Freddie took off, Guy took over.
Where is Freddie DeMann?
Enjoying
How's
his
he
Madonna
doing?
residuals, I'm sure.
Do we know where he went? Do we? Because we
Boca
know.
Raton, Florida.
Is he in Boca Raton?
He
No.
must be. I just know that he was exhausted after the sex book.
Oh, please.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm just surprised that nothing, Freddie DeMann got out probably at the right time, because my guess is there were probably some, Me Too moments that, Freddie just looked like it. I'm just saying. Do you know
That's
what
a
I mean?
big statement, Kenny Finkle. Do you really want to say that here on the podcast?
No.
Whoa, Kenny Finkle is outing.
No, but come on, Freddie DeMann. I mean, if you just looked at him, you could feel like there's something.
Kenny, that's a terrible thing to say. He's not Jerry Lewis, for God's sake.
I know, right?
Like, let's all calm down.
No, I was just thinking about Freddie DeMann because he apparently was. He was in the Janet Jackson documentary. Like you could see him in background photos because he was Michael's. He was Michael's manager, and I mean, he knows where all those bodies are buried.
Yeah, he does.
He is never going to write a book.
No,
I'll bet you he will not be someone who writes the book.
No.
I mean, it's an interesting question because we know where Silvio Ciccone is. He's sitting in the winery counting the money, and we know where Paula is, and we know where everybody is except Freddie DeMann. He's like disappeared.
Yeah.
And some of Madonna's
Off the grid.
assistants. We don't know what happened to them.
Where is Melissa? I want a reunion with Melissa and Carice Henry. I want them to get together and like drink.
I want to hear all about Sweet Melly Mel. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but I was on the lookout. I was not on the lookout. I was stalking John Draper, and I finally found him, and he did not want to go on record with me.
Why? Why?
He was very nice, in the email. He just wrote, that was a time of my life a long time ago. I'm out of the music business. I've said everything I need to say about it, but I wish you the best. It was very gracious, but I'm like,
has he said anything?
Motherfucker.
But I was like, John Draper, you're the one. You're the one we want to talk to.
Has he said anything? I don't remember him having big statements that he made.
So I did a little bit of research, and what happened is that upstate New York, there was a film festival at some small repertory theater, and he went and did a Q&A about Truth or Dare there.
Why didn't we go to that? I would go to that.
Because
cool.
Getting to Buffalo is not that easy.
I was going to say, that's a sojourn.
It's not sexy.
It's not. But yeah, I mean, we try. There's got to be a list of all these people that we got to find one day.
And their NDAs are even longer than our lists. So. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MLVC Podcast. You can also donate to the podcast on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, as well as become a subscriber on Patreon, patreon.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. Gentlemen, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I'm
Thank you so much, you guys.
Hearing the rest of your season and seeing where you go. And I mean, y'all are marathoners. You've got a hefty amount of Madonna left to go. So I hope you're taking your B12 shots.
Oh, I'm so excited. There's Evita coming up and Ray of Light. I mean, you guys are just like handing me a banquet of good.
Oh, I'm thinking about Across the Sky, man. I'm thinking about Across the Sky.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about
We're thinking about
Beautiful Killer.
Will you do Has to Be?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the rules were for the B-sides or the unreleased.
Cyberaga.
Yeah,
I'm diving into Cyberaga.
We're even going to talk about Revenge.
Revenge. Broken.
I love Broken.
Good.
Broken's
So good.
Great
I
song.
love that song so much. I always forget about that song, and then when I re-find it in my iTunes playlist or something, I'm like, oh my God, I love this.
I have a homosexual friend who has his sealed fan club vinyl of Broken that he hasn't opened yet.
That was the best thing Icon ever did. That was the best thing Icon ever did.
I'm like begging him for it. I want it so badly, but I don't think I'm going to get it. We'll see though.
We'll beg on your behalf. All right.
I'll let you know. I'll have an update by the time we record the episode.
Okay, great. Thanks guys so much.
Thank you so
much.
Thank
This
you,
was a lot
Kenny.
of fun.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, everybody.